beautiful thing about life is that we're given a family, other Homo sapiens that we cannot choose, but hopefully give you love and a path to follow. As we get older, we start to choose our family, and only let people we want into our lives. These people are called friends, and will bring us joy, laughter, and memories for a lifetime. Now, when it comes to sport, one individual can take on both of these roles without ever meeting you, and capturing your heart in a way that can never be described. 1957, Pedrena, a small village in Cantabria, Spain. Severiano Ballesteros Sota was the last of 5 boys to be born, and perhaps the chosen one of a bloodline rich in golf. Unfortunately, at the age of 2, one of the brothers died due to a wasp sting, which left father Baldomero Ballesteros Prismanes and mother Carmen Sota Oquejo with a piece of their heart missing for the rest of their life. Growing up for the Ballesteros family in northern Spain was tough. Life consisted of hard work and poverty, with hardly anything to do. In the village there was one bar, one television, one telephone, one shop, and no cars. Seeing a car back then was like looking up to the sky and seeing a Concorde today. The primary industries in Pedrena were fishing and farming, but the town was also home to the Real Club de Golf de Pedrena, which the family's small home overlooked. Seve's father, Balderrama, was a farmer and sometime boat racer, and his uncle Ramon was a professional golfer who was Spanish professional champion 4 times and finished 6th at the 1965 Masters. He served as a role model for his young nephews. Considering his uncle's influence and all of his brothers playing golf already, Seve didn't really get into golf till he was 9. His first club was an old beheaded golf club in which he jammed a stick into it, and that would be the start-up. From there he had hand-me-downs, but the family still couldn't afford a membership at the golf course. To get his fix and to be able to practice, Seve's only option was to sneak onto the golf course at night or practice chipping in his garden. But a majority of his practice was played at the local beach, where he would draw out courses and play for hours. Now playing golf miraculously, Seve's birth defect was now looking like a touch from God. He was born with a physical defect in which his right shoulder would sit lower than his left, the ideal address position. With his Spanish passion running through his veins, every hour Seve could find would be spent playing golf. He played in his first tournament at age 10 and scored an eerie 10 on the first hole. He'd go on to finish 5th in the competition, shooting 51 over 9 holes. His love was huge, and spending every hour playing golf meant that education was taking a hit, as young Severiano was starting to skip school. Even when he was at school, Seve's attitude was glowing in a stance that he just didn't want to be there. At age 12, Seve got into an altercation with a teacher, after being punished one morning with a wooden ruler across the palms of his hands for tearing pages out of textbooks. An angered Seve ran home at lunchtime, only to find out his parents had gone fishing. Angry and upset, Seve sat down at the dinner table to find that his father had left a bottle of wine out ready for the evening meal. Seve began to drink 2 glasses of wine before stumbling back to school. Seve was so drunk that when he got back to class, he jumped onto the teacher's desk, grabbed her by the scruff of the neck, and started to rough her up. That was near enough the end for Seve, and the school had no choice but to expel him. He'd tinker with school for the next few years, but by age 14 enough was enough, and Seve dropped out. With all the time in the world to do what he liked, Seve now had more time to play golf, and also concentrate on his other love in sport. Severiano was an avid boxer, and was constantly sparring, probably trying to release a little rage. But one day, a freak accident in the ring would change the way Seve moved for the rest of his career. During a fight, Seve tripped and landed on his coccyx. Nobody's fault but his own, and whilst not getting any treatment, the stubborn boy would live with the pain for the rest of his life. Whilst calming down on the fighting, soon, Seve was old enough to work as a caddy, and to compete for his first purse. Betting on rounds of golf played against his co-workers, Seve won his first of 5 caddy championships, and that gave him official course privileges. No longer did he have to sneak onto the course at night, or practice on the beach. Seve could now use the course in the daytime, and by God did he make up for lost time. However, whilst really starting to dial in on his career, Seve's caddying career wasn't over just yet. In 1972, at the opening of La Manga Golf Club, Seve had the privilege to play with his boyhood hero, Gary Player. During the Celebrity Pro-Am, Seve had the time to fully pick players' brains and take it all in on what it would take to be a professional golfer. With the skill very much there, and now with the wisdom passed down from his idol, You'd think this would be enough for Ballesteros to concentrate on his dreams, but Seve's mischievous character couldn't resist the thrill of getting into trouble one more time. Him and some friends were on the golf course late one evening and began getting into some trouble. They started messing around with some drainage tubes, and when inspected by the greenkeeper, all were banned from the golf course. With nowhere to practice now, Seve had a few options. Take the leap into professional golf, even though he wasn't ready, or give up on his dream and beg for forgiveness from the golf course. His mind was made up for him though. Seve had no money and there was no way he could support himself in the professional world. But somebody believed in Severiano, a man called Dr. Cesar Camposano. He promised to support Seve for his entire first year as a professional. The troubled teen from a small village in northern Spain was unchained and set free into the wild. He began playing in small competitions in 1974 and 1975 throughout Spain, winning on 3 occasions, earning a measly £15, and after 2 years was already ranked the top Spaniard under 25 in Spain. So Seve had set the foundation, but it was the year of 1976 he would break through and show the world his talent and make sure they never forgot his name. The breakout would start with a disaster though, as the first tournament he played in was the Spanish Open at La Manga, where he shot rounds of 83 and 76 to miss the cut by 6. A rocky start, and Seve hadn't quite got to grips with being a professional just yet. A week before the British Open, Seve was back home with his father, baling hay and working on the farm, and days before the Open was caddying for his brother Manuel. Then, when he finally turned up to Royal Birkdale without a caddy, he asked a local policeman, Dick Draper, who had never caddied before in his life, to do the job. Not that he had much work to do that weekend, as Seve was pure magic. He led by 2 shots after the 3rd round, but a final round of 74 saw him tie with Jack Nicklaus 6 shots behind the winner, Johnny Miller. After that, the countdown was on for his first big win. At the Dutch Open, Seve opted to wear navy blue on the last day. No apparent reason at the time, but a colour that would stick with him for the rest of his career. He shot 68-69 on the weekend to win by 8 shots, and from that day forward, always wore blue on Sunday. Before people had chance to figure out who this boisterous young Spaniard was, Seve was taking down one of their fan favourites. His poised nerve shone through when victorious over American favourite Arnold Palmer at the Lancôme Trophy competition in Paris. Ballesteros gave the crowd a taste of his self-confidence in coming from behind to shoot 69 on Sunday to beat Palmer's 70 and beat him by 1 shot. According to a reporter for the London Telegraph, he told the crowd at the 9th tee, "My heart tells me that the time has come," and then proceeded to score birdies and get his score back to 1 under par on the next 5 holes. That win introduced him into the spotlight of the US just in time for the World Cup of Golf that was taking place in Mission Hills Country Club in California. He teamed up with Manuel Pinheiro, and together the team shot 2 under par, the only team to shoot in the red and take home the World Cup. He went on to win the European Tour Order of Merit that year, earning over €100,000 and only missing 1 cut from 34. In 1977, Seve was ordered to join Spain's compulsory military service, also known as La Mili in Spanish. The service began in the late 18th and 19th centuries, and men and women between 18 and 40 were required to fulfill 15 to 24 months of service. Seve was still allowed to play golf during this time and was also paid £2 a week for teaching the Air Force officers golf. That £2 a week wouldn't have even showed up in his bank balance though, because of the season that he was still having on the European Tour. During his service, Seve managed 8 wins worldwide, including big wins at the French Open, the Swiss Open, and the Japan Open. When returning to golf full-time, he quickly established himself as one of the top players in the world. He won the Swiss, Kenyan, Japanese, German, and Scandinavian Open tournaments, and also got his breakthrough win on American soil at North Carolina's Greater Greensboro Open. Ballesteros was popular with American golf fans, but he faced resentment from players who viewed him as an interloper and an unwelcome competitor for US prize money. But a little hate wouldn't bother Seve. He was far too thick-skinned for that. 4 years he'd been a professional, and already he had taken down 25 wins, including 9 different countries' national opens. To mark double digits, there was 1 open he'd need to complete his collection, a collection that would need that PSA 10. A month before the Open, Seve would win the Ladder English Golf Classic and then finish second at the Scandinavian. His game was in tip-top shape, and when arriving at Royal Lytham, the 22-year-old felt something in the wind, a sense of calmness. Seve didn't take advantage of day one's quiet conditions. Some might say it was too easy for him. His concentration was scattered, and after a 73 2-over par was 8 back of leader Bill Longmire. Day 2, as the crowds gathered and conditions intensified, saw a different Ballesteros turn up. He shot the round of the day 65 6 under par to shoot him right back into contention to second place, and now the weekend seemed bright. Bright would be the polar opposite of what Mother Nature had to offer. Winds came in rapid gusts and players struggled all over the course. To put it into perspective, only one player was now under par, and Seve's 75 4-over par was still enough to keep him in second place. Hale Irwin with a 2-shot lead, and Seve would battle it out in the final group on Sunday with a pack of huge names waiting for someone to slip. The pair got underway in tough conditions, once again with both just one good round away from lifting the claret jug. Irwin, that year's US Open winner, got off to a tough start. He was hitting everything down the middle, but Seve's clutch pars from all over the course were really throwing him off his game, and soon he began to slip out of the lead. As the tide changed and Seve took the lead, with 3 holes remaining there was still time for a little more drama. With Nicklaus and Crenshaw ready to pounce, Seve hit a wayward tee shot into a car park, and suddenly the championship was wide open. With the ball nestled under a car, Ballesteros was given free relief, and he then began pacing out his imagination. After playing it safe to the centre of the green, Seve then wanted to put the ball as close as possible, but with the golfing gods on his side, the ball dropped and Seve extended his lead. With a clutch par putt at 17 and a 2-shot lead heading down 18, like Moses he parted the crowd and marched his way to victory. Reportedly after his win, Seve gifted money to the doctor who supported his journey at the start of his career. The win made him the youngest winner of the tournament in the 20th century, and the first golfer from continental Europe to win a major since the Frenchman Arnaud Massy won the Open in 1907. It seemed like Seve had been around forever. He dominated Europe and now, like Christopher Columbus, was setting sail for land further afield. In 1980, his ship would dock at Augusta National, and Seve's ever-expanding imagination got to work. During the practice days, Seve paced out the whole entire course, taking copious amounts of notes, all because his American caddy was used to yards, but Seve liked meters. On day 1, it was the internationals who made a move first, including Seve. He made a big birdie putt on 17 to put him at 6 under par and tied for the lead with Aussie David Graham. Day 2 was a little slower for everybody as the leaderboard chopped and changed, lining itself up for the weekend. Seve hit a pitch and wedge in close on 14 and then sank the putt to remain the pacemaker at -8. At number 17, his charge was dominant and everything was dropping. The 15-footer rolled in with ease, and with a par at the last and a round of 69 was 4 shots clear going into the weekend. The weekend couldn't repeat the first 2 days of sunshine as a storm flew in to test everybody's limits. Seve was unfazed. As everybody slipped away in the drains, Seve shone through. Despite everything going on around him, Seve stuck to his game and proceeded to attack the course. He'd finished the day with yet another birdie, and Seve now had one of the biggest leads ever going into the Masters final round. With a 7-stroke lead, Seve knew all he needed to do was play smart and let everyone beneath him chase and make their own mistakes. People tried to catch the man from Santander, but at one point he hit lows of 16 under par, and from there, he could never be caught. Like every major story though, there is always a change in the wind that gives one last test to a champion. The man who couldn't even play with a number 3 ball because of his fear of a 3-putt got shot in the face with his own superstition. Things were getting a little nervy at Amen Corner when Seve put a 6-iron in the water at 12 and left himself a horrible recovery shot to get up and down. He played it safe, missed the putt back, and Amen Corner, like it always does, was deciding the Masters. At one point having a 10-shot lead and now it down to 5. Seve still had a great lead, but his nervous system had been rocked. He needed to steady the ship and sail this to victory. He began willing his ball down the fairway, but will wasn't enough, as yet again Seve found the water at 13, and people around him could smell blood. With another drop, Seve put one in close, but still couldn't make the putt, meaning that over 4 holes he'd lost 7 shots to his nearest competitor. Gilbert made 4 straight birdies to get 2 inside of Seve, and then missed another birdie putt that would have seen him 1 behind. Putting the pressure on, Gilbert was in the clubhouse at 9 under par, but with that Seve made another birdie, and suddenly that 4-shot lead looked more likely. It was a rocky round, but even par was enough to do it on the final day. And with a 4-shot lead at 13 under par, Severiano was a 2-time major champion. Anti-European sentiment could not stop Ballesteros from winning their prestigious Masters Championship. Not only victorious, Seve became the first European, the second non-American, and the youngest player ever to win the championship, a record that stood until Tiger Woods' victory in 1997. The domination through the 80s continued, and it was blatantly obvious that we had a legend on our hands. He'd win the Masters for a second time in '83, much to the patrons' disapproval. The course's new drainage system was pushed to its limits that year. As the rain stopped playing, the final day was played on Monday for the first time since 1973. Seve dominated the final round, winning his second Masters with a 4-stroke lead over Ben Crenshaw and Tom Kite. The following year at the '84 Open Championship in the final round, the collapse of Ian Baker Finch on Sunday saw Ballesteros birdie the 18th hole for a 69, whilst 54-hole co-leader Tom Watson bogeyed the famous 17th for a 73, which ended his bid for a third consecutive Open. Ballesteros' famous fist pump after his last putt is one of the most enduring images of golf and a win many people remember. During his conquer, Seve won more than 90 times in his career, putting more putters in Ping's gold vault than any other person, and when he won, his hometown would ring the church bells. He was the first person to reach 1 million, 2 million, and 3 million in European Tour earnings, and because of that amount of money, slept with a pistol under his bed on the off chance that his home would be broken into by intruders. This career so far was what made people fall in love with him. His mannerisms on the course and his personality made people feel like they were his friend. However, Seve would break this friendship with the Americans, but at the same time have Europeans looking up to him as a god. In 1985, Seve helped end a 50-year domination from the Americans and was a key part in the first ever European Ryder Cup win. In Sunday's singles, Seve was up against the fierce Tom Kite, who got off to an early lead, but after some great drives and clutch putts, managed to get half a point back for the Europeans. It would be Sam Torrance who would have the pleasure of sinking the final putt on 18, and with it, sparked a new love for the Europeans in the Ryder Cup. This is what Seve loved. The team aspect reminded him of his love for football, and his Spanish passion bled into the hearts of every fan and every player on his team. In 1987, the Europeans took the victory on the home soil of the Americans for another piece of history. Ballesteros and Olafaber's unmatched pairing helped secure 3 out of 4 matches, and Seve beat Curtis Strange on Sunday, helping Europe to back-to-back wins. Seve was the leading point scorer at that Ryder Cup, and even had the pleasure this time of sinking the winning putt. Europe were making history, and Seve's influence was a huge part of it. His and Jose Maria Olafaber's unstoppable pairing were at it again in '89. The Americans came back to the Belfry to try end a winning streak from the Europeans, which was getting out of control. The pair destroyed Tom Watson and Mark O'Meara 6-5 on Friday afternoon, and then won both their matches on Saturday. Come Sunday, Seve lost his singles match to Paul Azinger 1-up, but Olafaber won his match to become the leading point scorer of that Ryder Cup. In the end, it was a fair battle between the two teams that ended in a draw and meant that the Europeans retained the Ryder Cup. In 8 appearances, Ballesteros won an outstanding 22.5 out of 37 possible points. His iconic pairing with compatriot Jose Maria Olafaber is the greatest pairing in Ryder Cup history. They played 15 matches against the Americans, winning 11 of them and drawing 2. In the 90s, and with his game slowing down, Seve didn't win another major. But to Seve, the only major in golf was the Ryder Cup. Europe would win it again in '95 when Seve persuaded the European captain Bernard Gallagher to let them wear blue instead of green on the final day, as blue was his lucky colour. The colour blue may not have been lucky for Seve come Sunday, as he lost his singles to Tom Lehman, but the Ryder Cup was blue as Europe sneaked a win by 1 point in a dramatic fashion. As Seve's career began to slow down and his playing days were nearly up, Seve had 1 goal to complete, and this might be his biggest win out of the entire 90 he won worldwide, and he wasn't even playing. After winning the Ryder Cup 2 years ago, Seve was now captain of a young, talented European team, with the cup being hosted in Valderrama, Spain, for its first appearance in continental Europe. The Europeans dominated Friday and Saturday, leading 10.5 to 5.5, heading into Sunday. The Americans hammered the Europeans come Sunday, 8-4 on the day, but it wasn't enough, and Europe won by 1 point to win the Ryder Cup, and Seve was a champion once again. Before the millennium, Seve was inducted into the World Golf Hall of Fame, but heading into the 2000s was riddled with back pain and could hardly play. The end of his life was a miserable one, and one nobody wants to remember him by. He split with his wife in 2004, and after further recurrences of his back problems, which contributed to him finishing tied for last in his only Champions Tour start, Ballesteros announced his retirement from golf on the 16th of July 2007, bringing down the curtain on an illustrious career. At the Madrid airport on the 6th of October 2008, Ballesteros lost consciousness and was admitted to a hospital. 6 days later, he confirmed that he had been diagnosed with a malignant brain tumour. After a long battle with chemo, the Ballesteros family released a statement announcing that his neurological condition had suffered a severe deterioration. He died within hours of the announcement in the early hours of the 7th of May 2011 at the age of 54. His older brother Baldomero confirmed the precise time of his death at 2 a.m. The globe stood still for a golfing legend as tributes around the sporting world took place. It's a horrible end to a sporting icon, but one that does not define a man. We remember Seve how he'd want to be remembered, for his passion, his ability, and his love for the game and everyone around him. Severiano Ballesteros will forever be remembered, and to this day is still used as motivation in the European dressing room. So from the golfing world, Dormir apretado, Seve.